I like your electric kettle.
Thank you. I just got it.
It's nice.
Yeah, I had one at home, and then I got this one.
Do you find that pour over, like what?
Oh,
I can
God.
tell.
We're going to go to coffee.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I like, French press that with the process that we go through to make the coffee is great. Not a fan of drip. Is there something that, other than the ease, right? Is there something that pour over brings to the table that makes it different, or is it for you? Because I know that you like having a lot of different ways of making coffee. Is it not so much the result, it's the process?
It's a little bit of convenience here at the office to have the pour over system because it's easy to clean and easy to work. But pour over provides the most control over the extraction rate of the coffee. So when you pour hot water over coffee grinds, with pour over, you can stop and let it steep. You can time it. But you can also get very, very precise with the amount of coffee in and water out. So you can really dial into your own personal tastes how much the water to coffee ratio is for you. So what that does is it gives you more flexibility over the strength of the taste of the coffee, or perhaps, I guess, the caffeine level. I'm not too sure of the chemistry of that. But, I have my primary coffee maker is a drip coffee machine that emulates a pour over experience. And then I have every other type.
Yeah, I know you have and I kind of looked at that and said, oh, that kind of reminds me of that, the toy box thing that we have inside of ClickUp for you, which is all the different company brand projects and marketing projects and advertising projects that are specific to JXM, and how what we've done is we've created kind of, toy box where you can go in, and depending on how you feel that day, where your mood's at, what is it G.I. Joe? Is it He-Man? Is it Transformers?
Yeah.
What am I playing with today? And I didn't know if the coffee was a similar thing. If it was it obviously how much time you have is gonna speak to which one you use. What you feel like doing, what you want. I mean, it's what, 20 degrees out and I have an iced coffee. So sometimes weather is going to dictate, though you're not really an iced coffee drinker.
I drink cold brew, but I don't, it's a little bit more of a process to brew. So I don't do it unless I know that I'm going to commit to drinking the entire jug.
The whole carafe, yeah.
Like when we travel to Michigan, it's a coffee desert all the way 90
Yeah,
west.
there's like a few Starbucks.
I still consider that to be a coffee desert.
Well, it's better than, but it's better than
Tim Hortons or
Dunkin' Donuts.
So what I do is the night before we leave, I brew at least a liter or more of cold brew, and I just keep it in the car because we often go in December. No big deal. It's going to be freezing in Buffalo. It's going to be freezing in Michigan. And I keep it in the back seat, and then finding out where I'm going to get coffee from is no longer a problem.
Yeah, it's not. See, and you can do it because you drink coffee black.
Yeah.
I drink milk with some coffee in it.
Yeah.
So, it's a little more. Remember that time we had never had Tim Hortons before? How blisteringly hot they served their coffee.
Yeah, it was like both of us had like 3rd-degree mouth burns.
Yeah, it was so. I mean, their little donut things are delicious, but
we were in at that last exit before Canada in Port Huron, Michigan, and we were like, "Oh, Tim Hortons, that's like a Canadian thing. We've never been." So we went in. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was like,
so burnt.
And maybe we just sometimes I
No,
drive.
some people like that. If that's your thing, you know, enjoy
Sometimes
it.
I drive by like a Dunkin's or a Tim Hortons, and I'm like, oh, they're advertising a dark roast. I'm interested, but I've stopped with dark roast, and I like light roast.
I'm a
now.
light. Me too. I'm a light roast guy. I know it might not be at your level, but Starbucks Veranda blend. I buy the beans and we grind those.
Yeah.
And that one, interesting enough, I use that for both the French press and the cold brew because we always there's always a craft of cold brew. Not because I do anything, because Ryan is gracious enough to always make the
Yeah.
cold brew for me in the summertime, which I, am always appreciative of.
We have a very regimented coffee routine. So when you said like it depends on what time you have, I always have time to make my coffee. Like, I don't miss it. I enjoy it. I have a scale. I weigh the beans. And this also goes to like the level of like recently I bought aftermarket burrs for my burr grinder. Took my burr grinder
You got some
apart.
aftermarket burrs on that, brother. What are you running? Is that a Mopar?
It's like we did one of the coffee companies that we frequent did a coffee Christmas advent calendar.
Yeah.
Where you got different coffees every day.
Ooh.
Yeah. And what did I do?
How much was in it?
Enough for
a
a full pot, a liter of coffee.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
And what did I do? All 25 days are tracked on a spreadsheet
I love it.
with rankings so that I can look at it and quickly extrapolate what I liked about the coffee from various regions, the different ways of processing the coffee. Because they would tell me this from this region. Here's how we processed it. Here's the varietal.
And you can kind of go back and then maybe find other things. You almost created your own recommendation engine.
I did because I go back and I go, what do we like the most? Well, in this particular instance, we liked all of the light roasts unequivocally from Ethiopia. So if I see another Ethiopian light roast, I'm going to pick it up.
You're a buyer. Yeah.
You know,
When you brought up the scale, and it was for a second, but in my mind, it lasted an eternity. I just pictured you dressed as the count. One, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Two,
Well,
ha,
no,
ha,
that's-
and you're just putting them down. And
I will. I'm still playing with the ratios because I believe that we're wasting some coffee. So
now you're talking my loud.
Yeah,
Now,
now I'm looking at it like, all right, if I go 70 grams of coffee for a liter, that's been our standard, depending on the coffee type, but mostly that's where we go. If I jack it down to 60 grams, what is that? How does that change the flavor profile? If I jack it down to 50 grams, how does that change the flavor? Because if I can get one more pot of coffee out of one bag of beans, I'm a little ahead of the game.
That's exactly.
It's
interesting that you. So, I think I'll use myself here as the foil. Before I really understood creativity, your particular process, and all of that, I always saw creative ability and data analysis to be, for lack of a term, diametrically opposed things. And so many times you've come to the table with, this is the, and here's what's behind that. And here's there is almost no instance, especially for client work, where you say, yeah, it's just what I think is good. Of course, that plays into it, right? But where does that come from? Why have you ever explored that? And it seems to be something that isn't necessarily prevalent in the creative world, that kind of parallel line of creativity and data. Where does that come from?
I've always been obsessed with hitting whatever the specific goal is more than art for art's sake. I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, my parents were involved with the parent teacher association at the school that I went to. And one of the events that they would hold every year was the annual summer bazaar, which was like a fair, and there were booths and all kinds of games and rides and stuff. And there was this one booth that was, first of all, they had excellent prizes. Second of all, I was in 6th or 7th grade, and the girl whose family was working at the booth was kind of cute. But the premise...
So you were laying down dollars.
The premise of the game was that you would throw a softball, and there was a radar to check your speed. You had 3 throws. And if you guessed your speed right on your 3rd throw, you won the prize.
So you need to get it dead on, like 40 miles. I don't know. I don't know how fast is fast for a 7-year-old.
So I would watch all the upperclassmen go, and I was standing next to the booth, and I'm watching them. And this has nothing to do with winning a prize. This is a pissing match. How hard can you throw the ball? And that was completely antithetical to my being, to the point that they stopped me from coming to that booth. Because I had figured out a mechanical motion with my arm.
You had the fix, yeah.
That I could throw the ball about 15 miles per hour. It wasn't fast. It was, I wasn't very manly, but it was a predictable way to win a prize because I could hit 15 with the same motion.
Yeah.
So I've always been wired in a way that's like, I'm looking for the most efficient way to get through this. And when you first met me, I was drawing a lot of inspiration from chaos. And now what I've learned is how to marry that desire for efficiency with creativity. That I'm actually more creative when I have a very set and regimented approach. And when I'm systematic about the way I approach what I do, it makes everything go a lot smoother. So the does it please me part of it still exists. Do I think this is great? Yes, I do. But that's like the last stop on the way through the journey. The first stop is like, is it going to work? Then it's, will the client like it? And then I don't care about either of those two things. Do I like it? So I have kind of a, I could almost create a checklist at this point of how I work through it. And it's the same way with how I structure my day, is that I block time in what I call sessions. So the night before, I sit down with my little journal and I go, okay, how do I want to construct tomorrow? And I'll say, okay, I know that I'm going to give myself some morning time to read, chill, whatever. Then session A will start at 10. I'm going to have lunch at noon. So session A is from 10 to 12. Session B will be from 1 to 2:30. Session C, if I can fit it in, will be from 3 to 5. And sometimes I do session D. I plan for one at, 7:30 when Alice goes to bed, and I just want to noodle until 9. The trick is not to give the sessions a purpose, but just identify them as open areas of time that I can work within. Mm-hmm. So I'm still inviting, Mr. Chaos in.
Yeah.
And that's where we realize the toy box thing works really well for me, is because I can go, all right, I got playtime now. And sometimes that playtime is, for client work, and I know that. But a lot of times it's like the lines are so blurred now between anything I would do for fun and anything I would do for a client, because I've engineered our creative in a way that I enjoy producing it with the team. So the lines are so blurred that it doesn't make a difference anymore.
Doesn't necessarily matter, which route you go down. That's interesting. I think the most interesting you said, well, not the most, but is inviting in Mr. Chaos. Because
There's the name
yeah, and
of the tangent.
Yeah, Mr. Chaos. That's it. So I mean, you nailed it, and I think we need to have a shirt that says "Invite Mr. Chaos."
It's something that's been on my mind is that, in my opinion, and I'm incredibly biased, we have this new brand and it's phenomenal. The aesthetic of it is just glorious. And I love every aspect of it. And the lack of swag is really starting to get to me.
I was complaining last week to Ryan that I am without a t-shirt, and pretty soon it will be t-shirt weather, and I don't want to have to I don't want to have to put on a polo to talk to do like new business conversation. I want to be able to wear a t-shirt.
And it's like we have almost we're getting creeping up on 60 posts on Pitchbend on our blog.
Are you kidding me?
No, and every single one of those posts has a piece of unique art. Like we could have a poster gallery of those because, and I'm thinking about printing some of them anyways because I want to hang them up in here in the office. But for once, like we used to,
I want the AI Overlord one. That's one of my favorites.
the one that, well, the thing is like we used to shy away from making a lot of swag for our own brand because we didn't have anything. We had a logo, and it became slap the logo on the shirt and move along with your life. Now there are so many variables that it's actually the opposite issue. It's like where do you start? But I just think we need to apply some good old-fashioned brute force to it and get it off the ground, and get those first couple with the logo on them, and then start iterating from there.